Alright, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakakwadash. And I want to give double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us this truth to rule well. This is Brother Izar. I'm out here in Odessa, Texas. I'm going to be going into Revelations 13. Going into the beast, the system of the beast, alright, the image of the beast, and then eventually, Lord willing, get to the mark of the beast, So I'm going to start off with Revelations 13 and verse 1. It says, "And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy." All right, so that sea that we read upon the first sentence of the first verse, all right, that sea represents people, nations, kindreds, tongues, So this is Revelation 17 and verse 15, and it reads, "And he saith unto me, The waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues." All right. Now that whore that the scriptures call the mother of harlots, all right, it represents America, which is Babylon the Great. All right. So America, Babylon the Great, is that great whore that sitteth upon waters. What is that? The book of Judges, chapter 5. Which is a prophetic, because this is how we prove, that we still have to keep the law, statutes, and commandments. They're not done away with. So this is Judges chapter 5 and verse 11. "They that are delivered from the noise of the archers," all right, and the noise of the archers represents the ICBM, all right, which is the Intercontinental Ballistic Missile. You see? So they, representing the elect, who the Most High has cared for, are delivered from the noise of the archers, all right? In the place of drawing water, all right, in the place of drawing water. Now, it is of no coincidence, all right, that you have the Mississippi River, which the Mississippi River was named by the Native Americans Mashashapa, all right? So the reason why the Native Americans named them Mashashapa, all right, which whenever I found that out, all right, I went into, a little bit of history trying to find out what came first, the name of the state or the name of the river, all right? Well, it turns out that the river, all right, the river was named Mashashapa first before the state was called Mississippi, all right? So when you do the study on that, the reason why they call them Mashashapa is because it represents their Hebrew customs, all right? So that name Mashah means Moses, which means to draw out, all right? And that word Shapa, I believe, means what was it? Like comfort, I believe. All right. So Moses was comforted. All right. So Moses, the Mississippi River, is named after the name Mashah, which is Moses. Shapa means to be comforted. All right. So Moses was comforted, and the name Moses means to draw out. All right. To draw out. So Mashashapa, the Mississippi River, means to draw out, draw out comfort. So here in the land of drawing water, all right, represents America, Babylon, It says, there shall they, all right, there shall they. Now that they doesn't represent anybody that calls himself Christian, all right? That word they there represents the Israelites, all right, that believe and follow Yahweh while Yahweh Shai, all right. So it says, there shall they rehearse the righteous acts of Yahweh, even the righteous acts towards the inhabitants of his villages in Israel. Then shall the people of Yahweh go down to the gates. All right. And as we read, all right, you come to find out that there isn't just one gate. All right. There's two. Let me get that. You know, so that's why scripture tells you to go down to the straight gate. All right. So this is let me get this one, you know, because I want to get the whole story. But this is Matthew 7:13. Enter ye in at the straight gate. And that word straight means difficulty. All right, difficult. It doesn't mean easy. It doesn't mean, you know, it's a straight narrow path, you know. That's not what it's talking about. So straight meaning difficult, because Mitzrayim, all right, Egypt represents double straits. Double straits mean double bondage. All right, it was twice difficult on us, you know. For wide is the gate, all right. For wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction. You see. So enter ye at the straight gate, which is the difficult gate. All right. Enter in a difficult gate, because broad is the gate of destruction. That means it's wide open. All right. That means a lot of people are going to be led into destruction. You know. It says, and many there be which go in thereat. It's lucky. All right. Many be they that go in thereat. All right. So there's many that are going to be going into that wide gate, which that wide gate represents different ways of life that are contrary to scripture. All right. That straight gate represents that difficult task that has been given unto the elect. All right. Which is follow Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai whithersoever he goeth. You see? So I'll read that one again. Let me go to the book of Mark. So like at verse 14 in Matthew, it says, because straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and a few there be that find it. All right, so let's go into that word straight. In the Greek, and that word straight is stenos. All right, let me see. Stenos, which means narrow, and straight. Narrow, it says from obstacles standing close about. All right, so when you come into this truth, it ain't gonna be easy sailing, you know. It's not gonna be something simple, you know, that you come into this truth and out of nowhere, you know, you have all this wisdom, all this knowledge, all this understanding. You don't have to read anymore. You don't have to do anything. All right, everything's just coming to you. It's not like that, you know. You have to fight the flesh, you know, because you have people, when they come into this truth, they get a little bit of knowledge, and they already feel like they, Salaki, like they know more than the apostles, more than the elders, you know. They feel like the Most High is dealing with them and nobody else. You know? And that was one of the first obstacles I had to overcome, man. You know, coming into this truth. I had demons attacking me, you know, like they were telling me, hey man, you know more than anybody else, you know? You know more than a regular Jake. All right? You should go off on your own, do your own thing. But I had to fight that spirit, man. You know, I had to fight that demon off because I know I don't know better. You know, you need proper guidance. So for those that are coming into this truth, that have that mentality, all right. You had Adam Abbott. You know, he first came into this truth, felt like he was on some type of level, started dissing the elders, the apostles. You know, they went on their own and then they changed the gospel. You know, they changed what the scripture was revealing. They try to do their own thing. You know, try to make themselves look good. Those are some of the principal things you gotta fight off, man. Another thing you gotta fight off, you know, would be temptations. Temptation to go back into the world. All right. So there's obstacles to this truth, man. You know, there's obstacles to this truth. So going back, this is Luke chapter 13 and verse 24. Strive to enter at the straight gate. All right, so that's what you ought to do. You ought to strive to enter at the straight gate. All right, no matter how difficult it may seem. All right, you should strive, which means to advance. Let's look up that word strive. All right. This is Luke 13 and 24. That word strive there. Ago ne zomai. Ago ne zomai. And it says to enter a contest, contend in gymnastic games, to contend with adversaries, to fight. Metaphor, to contend, to struggle with difficulties and dangers, to endeavor with strenuous zeal, a strenuous to strain, you know, a zeal, to strive to obtain something, you know. So you have to fight. You know, when you enter at the gymnasium gymnastic games, like it explained there, you're fighting, man. You're fighting to win the race, you know. So you should enter at the straight gate, you know. Enter at the straight gate so you can win the race, you know. Not saying that you're up against other brothers to cross the finish line, you know. But you're all fighting for the same thing, for the same cause, man. You know. So those are the two gates. The broad gate, all right, which many people are gonna enter through. All right, that's a broad gate. But the one you should strive at is the straight gate, which is the difficult task with obstacles that you have to overcome. You see? So going back to the book of Judges, chapter 5, verse 11, in the last part, it says, then shall the people of Yahweh go down to the gates. All right? So what gates is it? Well, you're going to have two. All right? You're going to have two gates. One of them is going to be for everlasting, how does it word it? Everlasting. One is for everlasting shame and content, all right, which is the broad gate. And then you have one that's for everlasting life, all right, which is that straight gate, you know, like it says in Daniel 12. So going back to Revelations chapter 13 and verse 1, and I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. All right, so we read that the sea represents a nation's kindred and tongues. All right, so you know all this, you know, the mark of the beast being implemented. All right, that great whore that sitteth upon waters, it represents Babylon the Great, which is here in America, which is ruled by Esau Edom. All right, So that it says, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea. All right, so a beast that rose up out of the nations. All right, so who is that beast? NATO and the EU. All right, you have NATO, which is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and then you have the EU, which was the EEC, which is the Economic European Committee. You know, so the EEC was made up of the 10 horns, which was Belgium, Denmark, France, Italy, Luxembourg, all right, Netherlands, Germany, Ireland, and England, and then West Germany. And that was all in 1957 when they signed the Treaty of Rome, all right, which I'll get into in the next verse. But in 1957, when they signed the Treaty of Rome, all right, when you look it up on Wikipedia, it shows that they only have 9, all right? And the reason for that is because this devil's trying to get clever. So instead of writing all 10, all right, which they realized, they put West Germany and Germany into one category, all right? And that's the reason why it shows only 9 in 1957, you know? Which would be the equivalent, you know, of these other nations putting America as having only what, how many would it be? Like maybe 46 states? Maybe about 44 states. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, you know, but you have North Carolina, South Carolina. They're two different states. Just because it says North Carolina and South Carolina does not make it one big Carolina. All right. So that's basically what they did in the EEC. They put West Germany and Germany into one category, you know, which at that time it was two different countries, you know, so it was 10 countries in total. And those are the 10 horns, all right, which are 10 kingdoms that came together, all right, which are different nations. They came together and they formed the beast, you see? So let me read that again. It says, and saw a beast, all right, rise up out of the sea. All right, saw a beast rise up out of the sea. So going back to Revelations 17 and 15, it reads, and he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. All right, so it's peoples and multitudes, nations and tongues, you see? So that beast that rose up out of the sea, all right, it is a party of nations that come together, all right, that came together out of different tongues, different kindreds. So that was the NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and the EEC, the European Economic Community, which later was known as the EU, the European Union, you know? And it says, having 7 heads and 10 horns. All right, so now we're gonna get into the 7 heads. You know, the 7 heads represents the Edomite rulership. All right, these 7 heads are 7 Edomite rulerships. You have the Greek, which the Greek, all right, the Greek were originally Japhites, all right, descendants of Japheth or Japheth, you know, which later on the Edomites came in and slowly started pushing them away and started taking over their customs. That's the same thing you see, all right, with the Native Americans, you know. You have the so-called Indians, you know, and you see, you know, old movies or whatever, and you see a whitewashed Jake, you know. The same thing with the Israelites, which they are Israelites, but I'm saying the land of Israel, all right. the land of Israel, you had Edomites that were in there. You had heathen that slowly started pushing away that Jake look, you know. So that's what Edomites do, man. They come in, all right. They take over whatever heritage or whatever memory of your ancestor, all right, you have, and they slowly start pushing you away, and they start pushing their own agenda. You see, that's what we read in the second book of Maccabees, I believe, chapter 3, verse 48, if I'm not mistaken. You know, so let me go on that. Second Maccabees, chapter 3. That was first. First Maccabees, chapter 3, verse 48. It says, First Maccabees, chapter 3, verse 48, and laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen hath sought to paint the likeness of their images. All right. So now it's not only in the Bible that they do this, iconoclast. All right. But they love to go out. You know, they go to the Sphinx in Egypt, and they knocked off the nose from the Sphinx. You know, they go into different places, and if there's ever a Jake that was in rulership, they'll knock off the noses. You see? The time of the Renaissance, which I heard today, you know, Lord willing, I could find that video so I could make a video on it. But you had IUIC, Nate from IUIC. You know, he was being asked by a Jake woman, which, you know, she might have been from Nigeria, could have been from Kenya, all right? But she was asking him questions about the Bible, and she was, one thing that she asked, you know, I could vaguely hear what she was saying. But she made mention of the 1,000-year period, all right, that we're gonna rule with, that scripture says you would rule with the Messiah, you know? Salakia. But Nate, all right, Nate didn't really expand on what that meant, because we know that they're sold out, you know. But he said that's when we're gonna rule for 1,000 years, all right, with the Messiah, which is completely off, you know. That's not true. The 1,000-year period already passed, man. Same thing with the 400-year prophecy, all right. Jake thinks it was gonna happen. It just, you know, the 400-year period was marked this year, 2019. But they thought that it was applied to nowadays. But they were off, all right? That's why the apostles made mention of it, you know, that it had already passed. Because Jake wants to get into prophecy and they can't get it, you know? Because they're being taught by people that are after their own bellies, man. You know, they're not being taught by the true apostles, the true elders of Israel, which starts out at Great Millstone, starting from Elder Tahar on down. You know, so Nate was saying that the 1,000-year period hasn't happened yet. All right, so what? Who is the devil then? You know, which we know that, you know, when we're in the kingdom, Esau Edom is now going to be completely done away with. He's going to be a slave. All right, but after a certain amount of time, he's going to be completely cut off, you know? But IUIC doesn't even mention that. They don't mention Esau Edom, you know? I know there's some camps out there that do, all right? But it's because of Nate that he doesn't push that, you know? Which people have to be learned, all right, to know who their enemy is. You know, they have to know who they are. If they're so-called Negroes, so-called Latinos, all right, so-called Native Americans, all right, they fall into the category of being of the 12 tribes of Israel. All right? They have to know who they are. You see? They have to know what time period we're in. The Bible times weren't back then. Right now, we're in the Bible times, man. We're in those end times, man. The end times started when Yahushua was on the scene. You know? So you have to know, if this is the last rulership, you have to know who is going to be ruling in that time, which is Esau, Edom. All right? So the seven heads represent, all right, the Edomite rulerships. So it started out with the Greek, all right? You had Alexander. Alexander the Greek was the leader, all right, of the Greek. Because after the Edomites pushed away the native Greek, all right, they came in and took in their customs. You see? They came in, took in their customs, and then they called themselves Greek. All right? And really the start of the Greek Empire, all right, started with Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great is what made the Greek, all right, as great as it was. You know? And that's in the first book of Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1. All right? It explains Alexander, because Alexander's father's name is Philip II of Macedon. All right? So from there, let me go. I'll hold first Maccabees 1, because I'm going to get into it. All right? That's off over here. So let me go back. So the seven heads, as the Greek, after the Greek was the Roman, all right, which the Romans were Edomites, all right. I have a book, and it's called what was it? The Romans, the Empire of the Edomite, you know. So they have some good meat in there. So that's what that book basically, you know, brings out about the Romans being Edomites, which the Talmud, all right, over there, the Jews over there in Israel, you know, they know that the Edomites were Romans, or that the Romans were Edomites, you know. The Greek also, you know. So you have the Greek, the Roman, and then you had Germania Major, Germania Minor, which were provinces in Rome, you know. So in those times, you had Germania Major, Germania Minor, after the Roman, all right? And then, after the fall of the Roman Empire, you had a 1,000-year period, all right? It was a 1,000-year period where this devil was not in rulership, all right? So when you look at the Dark Ages were actually ruled by dark-skinned people, which were the Israelites, not Hamites, all right? Not the Hamites. The Hamites are those people in mostly, all right, they're mostly in Africa. You have some Jakes out there too, you know, but that's why we judge by the spirit. Yahweh Hashem Yahushua in the book of Exodus gave us a different spirit than those of the Egyptians, you know, which the Egyptians are Hamites, you know. So you have that 1,000-year period, and that 1,000-year period was after Rome had collapsed. So it started roughly around 500 AD, all right, and it came back around 1500 AD, you know. So you also had the Roman Empire fall into 300, you know. They say it was around 300 AD, you know, 500 AD, came back around 1300 AD to 1500 AD, you know. That's roughly where they put it. All right, so it's about it's all in all a period of 1,000 years. All right, so what happened in the 1300s? Well, in the 1300s, you had something called the Renaissance. The Renaissance period means rebirth. The rebirth of what? This devil, Esau, Edom. All right, so this devil came back around the 1300s to the 1600s. You know, and what did he do? But when he came back, they committed iconoclast. Like I read in first book of Maccabees, chapter 3, verse 48. You know, that iconoclast that they did was to paint their pictures, all right? Knock off noses from statues, you know? Paint their own pictures. You had the Borgia family, which the Borgia family, you know, they painted the picture of the Messiah by the way of his son. And his son was a faggot, all right? So that's an abomination in itself. He was what's it called? He married his sister, all right, which is incest, which is also an abomination, all right? So you had this Borgia man, Cesar Borgia, all right, that was painted, and his image was painted in the likeness of the Lord, all right? Cesar Borgia, you know? So then you also have Serapis Christos. You know, Serapis Christos was Greek mythology, of Roman mythology, you know, which later on was known as Zeus Christos, and then later on was just simply known as Zeus, all right? So you have Zeus Christos, all right, which is a version of who the Messiah was, man. And that's why you had Israelites that were expelled from Rome, you know, because of all this stuff that they were bringing in, all this truth, you know. So those are the 7 heads. After those are the 4 heads, all right. After the 1,000-year period, they came back as Spaniola, all right, which is the Spanish, and then the French, and you had the English, which that would make up the 7 heads, all right. So you had the Greek, you had the Romans, Germania Major, Germania Minor, all right. You had, after the 1,000-year period, Spaniola, which 5, all right. The French, which is the 6, and then you had the English, all right. And like I'm going to read in Revelation 17 and verse, I believe it was 10. 17 and 10, it says, and there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come, and when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7th, and goeth into perdition. All right? So, America, obviously America, they didn't know Babylon the Great, all right, which is Mystery Babylon. I believe it's 18, you know. Fucking Edomites, man. But you had, you know, Spaniola. You had the Spanish, the French, and then you had the English. So the 8th that came of the 7 was Babylon the Great, all right. And Babylon the Great is America. So obviously back then they weren't going to write down America is the 8th, all right? You have to understand what the prophecy is speaking, you know? All right, so those were the 7 heads. Those were the 7 heads. The 8th head is the one that goes into perdition. All right, the 8th that comes out of the 7 goes into perdition, which is America, Babylon the Great. All right, this place, perdition meaning destruction. This place is going to go into destruction, man. You know, that's what's written in Joel chapter 2. All right. So continuing on, it says, and his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. All right, so the 10 horns are 10 crowns, which are kingdoms, rulerships. All right, and those 10 crowns, we went into it. All right, it's talking about the EEC in 1957, the Treaty of Rome, which was 10 nations. All right, originally 10 nations. It says, and on his head's the name of blasphemy. All right, the name of blasphemy. All right, so let's go into the blue letter Bible, and we'll go into that word blasphemy. All right, which is Revelations 13:1. Blasphemy. And that word in the Greek is blasphemia. Alright. So number 1, it says slander, detraction, speech injurious to another good name. Alright. So what's the good name? The name of Israel. Alright. Because our Lord, the Most High Yahweh, and Yahweh Shai is written on Israel. You know, their names are hang upon Israel. You know, so they blaspheme the name of Israel by saying that America is a Christian country. All right, by saying that the Jewish, which are not the real Jews, but are indeed are of the synagogue of Satan over there in Israel, are the real Jews, which is blasphemy. All right. They swear upon the Bible when they go into office, all right? When they go into presidency, when they're sworn into presidency, all right? They swear upon the Bible and then they turn around and do wickedness, man. That's blasphemy, all right? It says impious and reproachful speech, injurious to divine majesty, all right? Now you have their science, all right? Now you have their school, their school that teach that there is no God. All right. These schools and these systems, they teach that there is no God. All right. They teach that God doesn't know what He's doing, that the Most High Yahweh doesn't know what He's doing, and that's why you have to set chemtrails. All right. That's why they have to spray chemicals up in the air, so that they can make the air breathable for us, better for us. All right? They spray chemicals upon our foods. All right? You have these foods that have been sprayed with and tempered with a bunch of chemicals, man. You know? So they can make the food come out bigger. You know? Because strawberries aren't as big as they should be. You know? Because watermelons aren't as big and as juicy as they should be. And why is that? Because this devil is not giving the land any rest. Because when you read the scriptures, you come to know that the land has to have a Sabbath as well. You know? You have to give the land some rest, man. And this devil does not give anybody rest. Not the people, and not the land, and not the animals. Animals, you know, you have your chicken. All right, your chicken are constantly laying eggs, man. Laying eggs and laying eggs and laying eggs. And the female chicken does not have any rest. So what happens? She ends up dying off, man. All right? Because a chicken should not be giving that much birth. All right? Because when she does, her insides basically come out. You know? So you have these chickens that are laying a bunch of eggs. And when they can't produce anymore, they kill off the chickens. They kill off the chickens, you know? So this devil's not giving anybody any rest. Well, that's what you ought to expect out of this wicked society, man. You know? And I ran upon a Jake a while back, and I asked him, what time period are we living in? All right? What time period are we living in, and who is Babylon? Where is Babylon? You know? And he just couldn't believe anything. He said he believed in the Messiah. He said he believed in the Most High, but his actions were saying otherwise, man. You know? That's why in the book of Peter, that's why Peter makes mention, you know, if you say you have a zeal for the Most High, then you have to show it. You have to show your faith. You can't just say you have faith and then not show anything for it. All right. So let me get Ecclesiasticus, or the book of Sirach, chapter 10. And I'm gonna start off at verse 1. You know, because you should be able to tell if you're living in a righteous kingdom or not. Which that man said we're living in a Christian society. And that's not true, man. Because to be a Christian means to be a follower of the Messiah. If you're a follower of the Messiah, that means you should keep the law, statutes, and commandments to the best of your ability. All right? So you calling yourself a Christian and saying you have faith, that ain't all it. All right? There's much more to it. You know? So this is Sirach, chapter 10 and verse 1. A wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered. A government of a prudent man is well ordered. Let me look up that word. Prudent. The word prudent is a wise or judicious in practical affairs, sagacious, discreet, or circumspect, sober. All right? So a government of a prudent man, which is a sober man, all right? When you have Donald Trump, all right, Donald Trump, you had Obama, you had all these other presidents, and they're running the country like fucking drunkards, man. You know? They're running the country like drunkards. They're not sober, especially Donald J. Trump. All right? It says, careful in providing for the future. All right? Careful in providing for the future. All right? And that's exactly what Donald Trump is not doing. All right? He's not carefully providing for the future. He's leading us to World War III. You know? Leading us to World War III. Leading us to war. Now, in the kingdom of heaven, when the kingdom of heaven is established, which is a true Christian society, all right? Which the word Christian won't be around, all right? But the true society of the Lord, all right? There is going to be no war. We're not going to learn war anymore, all right? We're not going to go to war anymore. You see? We're not going to be teaching the law, statutes, and commandments because they're going to be written in the inward parts of the Israelites. All right? You wouldn't have these other nations, all right, warring against Israel. In fact, you would have these other nations go into Israel, all right, so they can learn from Israel. And that's not what we see now. You would have the kingdom of heaven bathed in gold, man. You would have streets of gold. All right? You would have walls of gold. Precious stones. And that's not what we see. All right? In fact, we see the exact opposite. We see a broken down society. All right? And then you go to Israel and you see nothing but dust and dirt, kind of like here in Odessa, Midland. You know? So, verse 2 says, as the judge of the people, all right, as the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers, and what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein. All right? Now, as the judge, all right, as the ruler of the city is, so are his officers. Now, who are the officers? Here in America, it would be the cops, right? You call them sheriffs, you call them officers, police officers, all right? It's the same thing you had in the Roman kingdom. You had people that would keep the peace, all right? But they just keep the peace to themselves. The boys in blue, you know? Everybody else is out of the question. They treat them however they want to treat them. Which is how the Romans work. The Romans often would take advantage of the civilians, man. You know? The foreigners. And nowadays you have these officers taking advantage of the foreigners, which would be the so-called Negroes, so-called Latinos, and so-called Native Americans. You'll see a police officer grab a Jake, all right, predominantly Judah. He'll grab a Jake and he'll slam him on the floor. Tase him for no reason, all right? Or he'll straight up just shoot him, you know? And no, it's not always Jake's fault, man. We are in the predicament that we are in because it is our fault, all right? But Jake getting shot up on the streets, all right? Jake getting shot up on the streets is due through the hatred, the perpetual hatred that Esau Edom has had for Jacob, you know? So that's how we know that this place is not righteous, all right? So it says, an unwise king destroyeth his people. All right. Now the so-called Negroes, so-called Latinos, and Native Americans are still people of this kingdom. You know, we're citizens. You know, we were born here, and that's how Paul got away with certain things, because he was born in the Roman Empire, but he was a Jew. All right, an Israelite. You see? So nowadays we can claim to be American, all right, but we're really Israelites, you know? So an unwise king destroyeth his people. Now, this man, Esau Edom, all right, has destroyed the people by tricking them, all right, by showing them something that's completely false. All right, like the apostles would say, there is another doctrine, which is not another, but there are some that trouble you, you know. So this doctrine, Christianity, is not really another doctrine. All right, it's not really, you know, part of this doctrine. It's not really another, man. You know, it's just something that they made up, trying to keep the people's minds closed in, you know? So back in Revelation 13, in verse 2, and the beast which I saw was likened unto a leopard. All right, so now let me go to the book of Maccabees, 1 Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 1. All right, and it reads, Salakia. This is Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persian and Medes. All right. So Darius was the ruler that you see in the prophecy of the book of Daniel, you know. So let me get that. Daniel chapter 8. We'll start off at verse 2. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam, and I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai. Then I lifted up mine eyes, and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram, which had two horns, and the two horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came a blast. That's talking about the Medo-Persian Empire. All right, you had the Medes and you had the Persians. Those are the two horns, all right? And the one was higher than the other, which is the Persians. The Persians had control over the Median, you know, the Medes. It says, verse 4, I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. All right, you had the Persians that were increasing, all right? That's why you have that movie 300. The Persians were increasing in a great army, and it was a foolish thing to go up against the Persians, you see, because the Persians were so powerful in army, all right? Because their power comes from their army. Same thing with America. All right, so it says in verse 4, it says the ram was pushing westward and northward and southward. All right, it didn't say eastward because the Medo-Persian Empire came from the east. All right, and it was pushing westward and north and south. You see, it says southward, so that no beast might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. All right, the Medo-Persian Empire was around 549 BC. All right, roughly estimated to be around that time. It says, and as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west, and on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. All right, that's the Greek, you know. That says, and the he-goat had a notable horn between his eyes, and that ruler is Alexander the Great. All right, the he-goat is the Greek Empire, and the ruler, which is the horn, is Alexander the Great. All right, he was the ruler of the Greek Empire, and he took over the Persians. All right, he conquered that known region of the world. All right, at that time. You see, so it says touching not the ground, because it basically spread that quick. You know, it basically spread that quick. When you spread a sheet over a bed, all right, it doesn't touch the ground, but it quickly comes down and covers the bed. All right, so in the same like manner, the Greek Empire came up and basically covered all the empires. You know, it didn't even run, it just completely covered. It seemed like it didn't run. Also, Alexander the Greek, when he would go into war, all right, when he would go into war, people would talk about and boast about Alexander, and it seemed like he didn't even touch the ground, because he just came in swiftly and started taking over, you know. So it says, and he came to the ram that had the two horns, all right, the Medo-Persian Empire, he meaning the Greek Empire, Alexander the Great. It says, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. All right, so the Greek Empire ran unto the Medo-Persian Empire in the fury of his power. Which, when you go into war, all right, when you're going to war, you don't go to war, you know, to spread peace. America says that they go to war to spread peace, when in reality, they go to spread their own agenda, you know. So America going to Iraq, they didn't go over there to spread democracy, all right, they did, but really what they wanted was the oil, all right. They go around spreading democracy, spreading their ways of life, all right, spreading their westernized ways of thinking, all right, so they can conquer over different people, you know. So Alexander the Great, when he went into the Medo-Persian Empire, he didn't go there to spread peace, love, and prosperity. Alexander the Great went in there because he hated that nation, man. He went in there to kill, all right. Like Scripture says, a thief cometh not, all right. A thief cometh not, but to kill and to destroy, all right. So in the same like manner, the ICBMs are gonna come here to kill and destroy, the same like manner Yahushua is coming back to kill and destroy those that were against him. You know? So it says, verse 7, and I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler. All right? Choler means to be bitter, to hate. All right? So he was moved with hate towards these other nations. Somebody that was more powerful than him. All right? It says, against him, and smote the ram, and brake his two horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground, and stamped on him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. All right? So when Alexander the Great came into power, all right, he went up against which again, the Greek Empire is the first Edomite Empire. All right? The first Edomite Empire. So Alexander the Great, leading the Greek, was the first Edomite Empire, as we're going to read in the first book of Maccabees. You know? So it said, there was nobody that could save the Medo-Persian Empire from Alexander the Great. All right? So verse 8 says, therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up four notable ones towards the four winds of heaven. All right? So after Alexander the Great was at the peak, at the very peak of his rulership, all right, he was broken off. All right? Meaning he was cut off. He died. All right? Alexander the Great died at the peak of his empire. You know? It's like it says his empire, all right, when that horn was broken off, it was split into the four winds, which is talking about his four generals. All right, you have Cassander, Ptolemy, the Simaicus, and Lysias. You know? So it's split into those four different generals. You know? They took over the power of Alexander the Great. You see? It says, and the one, and out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great towards the south, and towards the east, and towards the pleasant land. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host, and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. All right? And that was Antiochus Epiphanes, also known as Antiochus IV. All right? And who did he stamp upon? It was Israel. All right? He stamped upon the Israelites. You know, he brought them down real low. You see? So this is jumping down to verse 20. It says, the ram which thou sawest, having two horns, are the kings of Media and Persia. You see? So it is the Medo-Persian Empire. It says, and the rough goat is the king of Grecia. All right? Now, Grecia is another word for Greek, the Greece. All right? So Grecia is Greek, Greece. You see? It says, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. You see? So the Greeks' first king. Now let's go to the book of 1 Maccabees chapter 1 verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander the son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shittim, had smitten Darius king of Persia and Medes, and he reigned in his stead as the first over Greece. You see? So Grecia is Greece. So the first king that ruled over Greece was Alexander the Great. All right? And that is the leopard. Because when you go into Alexander, you had his father Philip the second of Macedon. All right? He would ride around on a horse with the leopard. All right, the leopard would cover his horse's back. All right, where he would ride upon. You see? And so would Alexander. Alexander would do the same thing, you know? So back in Revelations, back in Revelations 13 and verse 2, and the beast which I saw was likened unto a leopard, because that was the beginning of the Edomite rulership. The leopard, which was Alexander the Great. All right? Going back to history, the first rulership of the Edomites was by Alexander the Great. All right? So it started with Alexander the Great. It says, and his feet were as the feet of a bear. Now, the feet represent the end. All right? What's going to end this rulership? All right? So the feet, which is the end, represents Russia. All right? Since the Cold War, you have that TV show, Stranger Things, which shows you the rivalry between Russia and the United States, America. All right? Babylon the Great. So you have those two in conflict. All right? So the very end of the United States is going to be Russia. All right? Gog and Magog is going to end it all up. You see? So it says, in his mouth as the mouth of a lion. All right? The mouth of a lion, what gave power unto the beast, which is America, would be the English. All right? England. England is what ended up giving the power to America. All right? England gave America a voice by being overcome by America. You see? It says, and the dragon gave him his power. That dragon represents the Roman Empire. All right? So the Roman Empire gave the power also to America. Like we read, or to the beast, like it. Gave the power to the beast. All right? So that's why you had that, like I made mention, the EEC in 1957 had the Treaty of Rome. All right? So right now it's Rome all over again, man. You know? It says, and his seat and great authority. All right? So now people look at America like people looked at Rome back then. You know? You had great kingdoms, but nowadays, the Roman Empire is compared to here. All right? It's compared to America. All right? So as I read on, it says, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death. All right? Which is one of his heads. All right? He has 8 heads in total, because the 8th is of the 7th, but the 8th is the great whore that rideth upon the beast. All right? So you had the 7 heads, and one of the heads was the Roman Empire, all right, which was wounded unto death. So the Roman Empire was wounded unto death because it was almost completely dead. It was almost completely wiped out, all right? Now, if the Most High wanted, he would have completely wiped up the Roman Empire, you know? But he made the Roman Empire special so that it could come back, all right? Where it was wounded unto death, and behold, it was healed. You know, and right now the Roman Empire is flourishing. It's back in power. You know, because you have the false prophet. The false prophet is the Pope over there, where ancient Rome would be set up at, over there in Italy. All right, you have the Pope that's over there in Italy, in Rome. You know, so that Pope is the false prophet. You know, you could also tie in the false prophet to these preachers and pastors that basically follow what their elder, which is the Pope over there in Italy, says. You know? So it says, and great authority. It says, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, which was the Roman Empire, and his head and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. All right? Let me get that word wondered in verse 3. Revelations 13 and 3. It's lucky. Revelations 13 and verse 3. That word wondered. Shit. That word wondered. Alright, so Lachium. I saw wondered, thaumazo, which means to wonder at, marvel. Let's look at the definition for marvel. To be filled with wonder or astonishment. Alright? It says to be wondered, to be had in admiration. Now you have a lot of people that have America in admiration. Alright? People admire America for their bravery. Alright? You have people admiring America for what they stand for. You know? Because they stand for justice. They stand for freedom. It's lucky. Alright, they stand for freedom. Alright, they stand for equality. So you have people marveling after America. Alright, wow, America is so great. Alright, that's why you have a lot of Jakes. And mostly Jakes. Alright, you mostly have Jakes that migrate over here to America, the United States. The land of opportunity, the land of the brave. Alright? And that's what they want. Because they hear good things and that's what they want. That's what Jake wants to hear. Good things, good tidings. Alright? But they don't want to hear this. This is the true good tidings, man. You know? This is really what good tidings is. This is the real good news. The real good news is that you're not going to be left in poverty for the rest of your life. You know? If you labor for Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, alright? You're not going to be living in poverty for the rest of your life. You know? What is that? The Book of Psalms. Book of Psalms. Let me get that. Book of Psalms 80. Book of Psalms chapter 84 and verse 10. For a day in thy courts, alright? Talking about the Most High, the kingdom of heaven, is better than 1,000. Alright? One day in the kingdom of heaven is better than 1,000 days that we spend here in this world. You see? I had rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than to dwell in the tents of wickedness. And right now we're dwelling in the tents of wickedness, man. You know? So King David was talking about, I'd rather be having the most humble job in the kingdom of heaven, alright, than to have the most prestigious life here in this present world. You know? What is that in the book of Proverbs where it states, you know, man, I can't remember exactly what it says. Let me see. It was like 11. Delivered. That's one of them. Book of Proverbs chapter 12 and verse 6, righteousness keepeth him that is upright in the way, but wickedness overthroweth the sinner. There is that maketh himself rich, yet hath nothing. Alright? So you might have, you know, what was that other one? Wickedness gained, or Salakia, riches gained by deceit is wickedness. You know? So you have all these riches that you have gained by deceit, and in reality, you're poor. You don't have shit, man. All right, because the true riches is this wisdom. All right, Proverbs 8 and 11. It says, "For wisdom is better than rubies, and all things that may be desired are not to be compared to it. I, wisdom, dwell with prudence, and find out knowledge of witty inventions. The fear of Yahweh is to hate evil, pride and arrogance, and the evil way, and the froward mouth do I hate. All right, the deceitful mouth do I hate. You see, counsel is mine, and sound wisdom. I am understanding. I have strength. By me kings reign, and princes decree justice. By me princes rule, and nobles, even all the judges of the earth. I love them that love me, and those that seek me early shall find me. You see? So all those riches that you think you have, it's nothing. All right? It's a bunch of nothing. So verse 7 in Proverbs 14. So like in Proverbs 13 and 7. There is that maketh himself rich, yet hath nothing. There is that maketh himself poor, yet hath great riches. All right? And those are the ones that dwell within wisdom. We make ourselves to be poor. All right? Why? Because we don't have all the riches of the earth, man. All right? But yet we have everything, because this right here is what's going to deliver us from the oncoming, or for the incoming, from the incoming, from the present, from the future that is going to present itself as destruction. You see? There was another one. Let me see if I can find it.
Towards a white serpent sacrifices.
I think that was it. I believe that was it. There was one that was coming to my mind about oh, here it is. So like it. This is Proverbs 17 and 1. It says, better is a dry morsel and quietness therewith than a house full of sacrifices with strife. All right? Better is a dry morsel and quietness therewith than a house full of sacrifices with strife. All right? And America is the house full of sacrifice and strife, man. You know? Bunch of busybodies. So going back to Revelations 13 and wondered after the beast. Verse 4, it says, and they worship the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. All right, that America worships. All right, America worships the Roman Empire, the Greek. All right, that's what they worship. They worship nothing but wickedness. That's why you have Greek mythology that is taught in our schools. All right, that's why you have the Roman numerals that are pushed. All right, when you go into the 1611, all right, the 1611 has Roman numerals, you know, so you have to learn Roman numerals. You know, you have what else do they push? Oh, you have the two different branches that they had in the Roman Empire. They have them now as the Democrats and the Republicans, you know, which I'll get into in a minute. You have the plebeians and the patricians, you know. You have the plebeians and patricians. Basically what they studied in the Roman, basically what they pushed in the Roman kingdom, all right, is what America's pushing now, slightly different with different names, you know, but it's the same thing. Verse 4 says, and they worship the dragon which gave power unto the beast. All right, so the dragon being the Roman Empire gave power unto the beast, which is NATO, the EU is the beast, you know? And then America is part of the beast, but it's also its own separate thing. It's the whore that sitteth upon the beast. You see? That whore that sitteth upon the beast is the one that's that they're all gonna come to hate, you know? And right now it's already kicking off. You know, you have these other nations that are starting to push that hate towards America because they believe themselves to be the pinnacle, man. They believe themselves to be the top of the top, you know? They believe themselves to be that cherry on top of the ice cream, you know? It says, power unto the beast, and they worship the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him? So for a long time, you had these other nations that were afraid of Babylon the Great, America, all right, because of the military might that they pushed, the military might that they had, all right? Who can make war? When you go to war, you have to have instruments of war, right? That's why in the kingdom of heaven, we're not gonna have instruments of war because there's gonna be no need for war, you know? And that goes to show that we're not in the kingdom, we're not in the Christian society, you know? We're not. Right now it's time to be waking the fuck up, man. You know, excuse my French, but it's time to wake up. And it says, who is able to make war with him, with America, all right? It says, and there was given unto him a mouth, speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. All right, so you had America, you know, from a certain point of time to a certain point of time, you had America was flourishing, man. America was rising in wealth, was increasing in knowledge, all right? America was just flourishing. And after a certain period of time, it started decreasing. It started going downhill, you know? You had the movie Captain America, the first Avenger, I believe. In that movie, all right, you had cars that were, you know, starting to lift up off the ground, man. All right, they were starting to hover. That's why people had so much speculation. And that's why people said that by this time, all right, 2019, 2017, by this time, the world would already be seeing flying cars. That's why you had that movie Back to the Future. Because technology was increasing, all right? But this devil does not want technology to increase at that rate, all right? He's slowing it down because he's trying to present that RFID chip, which is the mark of the beast, you know? It says 42 months, all right? Which is roughly about 350 years, or 350 years. All right, so around the 1900s, America started dropping, you know, started falling back down. It says, and he opened his mouth and blasphemies against the Most High to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. All right, so now he's saying that the angels are actually white people. All right, he's saying that the angels actually look like white people. He's saying that the Most High looks like a white person. That's blasphemy. All right, the Most High is not leprous. He's saying that Yahawashi HaMashiach, which is the deliverer, the son, he's saying that he looks like a white person, or a so-called white. And that's blasphemy. All right, because the Most High did not give his only begotten son leprosy. All right. And now he's saying, all right, that and now he's saying that his tabernacle, all right, his people, the people of the Most High, are actually self-proclaimed white people. All right, he's saying that they're the real Jews, not the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, which is false. All right, it's a lie. You know, it says. Tabernacle them that dwell there in heaven, and it was given unto him to make war with the saints. All right, so who's the one that's going to be in rulership? All right, who's the one that's going to be able to make war with the saints? It has to be a person, man. It has to be a person, because like we read in the book of Psalms 55 and Psalms 58, all right, It's by deceit, by the poison of the serpent. All right. So, where was I gonna go? Well, with the same. Let me go to 2nd Esdras. All right, chapter 6. 2nd Esdras, chapter 6. I'm gonna start off at verse 1. All right. 2nd Esdras 6. Okay. This is over here. 2nd Esdras. 2nd Esdras chapter 6 and verse 1. And it reads, "And he said unto me, in the beginning, when the earth was made, before the borders of the world stood, or ever the winds blew, before it thundered and lightened, or ever the foundations of paradise were laid, before the fair flowers were seen, or ever the movable powers were established, before the innumerable multitude of angels were gathered together, or ever the heights of the air were lifted up." All right, it says, before the measures of the firmament were named, or ever the chimneys in Sion were hot, and ere the present years were sought out, and or ever the inventions of them that now sin were turned, before they were sealed, that have gathered faith for a treasure, then did I consider these things. All right, so before anything was ever established, the Most High had already established everything. You see that? So before anything was laid, before the foundation of the earth, the Most High had already decreed a decree. All right, and if the Most High decreed a decree, nobody can overturn it. You see? So let me get this. It says, this is Isaiah 46 and 10, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. All right, so the Most High declared that Edom was going to be the wicked one. He declared that Jacob was going to be, the Israelites were going to be the righteous ones. That's what the Most High had declared from the beginning. All right, from the beginning, before the creation of the world, before the foundation of the earth. All right, before the powers ever stood, the Most High had already declared it. All right, so verse 6, 2nd Ezra chapter 6, verse 6. Then did I consider these things, and they were all done through me alone, and through none other. By me also they shall be ended, and by none other. Then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times, and when shall be the end of the first, and the beginning of it that followeth? And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. All right, so the end times, Esau has to be in rulership in those end times. All right, and like I read, the 7 heads are the 7 rulerships of Esau Edom. The 10 horns are 10 Edomite nations that come together. All right, it says the hand of a man is betwixt the heel and the hand. Other questions Ezra asked thou not. All right, so the end of times, Babylon the Great is going to be ruled. It's going to be ruled, and it is ruled by Esau Edom. All right, it is ruled because, as we read in Ecclesiasticus Sirach chapter 10, all right, the kingdom that is wicked is because the ruler is wicked. You see? So this is back in Revelations 13 and verse 7, and it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and power was given unto him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. You see? So who's ruling the world? Now it was prophecy in Deuteronomy 28 that we would be the tail and he would be the head. All right. So who's the one that's loaning and is not being loaned anything? All right. The self-proclaimed white man. All right. He owns the banks. All right. He goes to these other countries to establish his banks. That's why the most powerful right now is the American dollar. All right, the petrodollar, the most powerful. And it's slowly being overturned and being thrown away. Venezuela was trying to do away with the dollar, and guess what happened? Democracy was knocking at the door, you know? Russia's dropping the dollar, China's dropping the dollar, even Mexico's dropping the dollar. Everybody wants to do business with each other, and they're trying to push away that great horde, America, Babylon the Great. All right, they're trying to push away. Talking about the Lord, yeah.
Hey, amen, brother, amen. Keep going.
See, so America, Babylon the Great, all right, is trying to be done away with by these other nations. You see, so that's what Revelation 13 is talking about. It's not talking about this mythical creature that comes out from the ground with big horns and red all over with a pitchfork. All right? It's not talking about that mythical creature. It's talking about a literal man that's going to be in rulership. All right? And the men that are in rulership are the self-proclaimed white men. All right? Those are the ones that are making war with the saints. You know? They've been making war with the saints, man. That's what we read in the book of Obadiah. You know? It says, to overcome them, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb. All right, so when you go into, like I went into the book of Maccabees, chapter 3, verse 48, he made his likeness according to, in the book of the law. He opened the book of the law and painted his likeness in it. You know? That's why you have the Lord, all right? That's why you have the Lord portrayed as a so-called white man. Because everybody worships this man now. You have Jakes that are afraid to speak up against Esau Edom because they feel that they're going to be thrown into jail. You know? But this man at liberty speaks up against Muslims, speaks up against Negroes, speaks up against Latinos, speaks up against Native Americans, speaks up against any nation he damn well pleases. You know? But when you speak about him, oh no, that's a big shame. That's a big no-no. You don't do that. All right? So yes, everybody does worship this man. You know? Those that are not written in the book of life, man. You know? Which the only ones that are going to be written in the book of life are the elect. So, slain from the foundation of the world. All right, so from there, let me go to, what was it? What was I going to bring? Let me see. I'll go into Genesis 27. Genesis 27. Let me go straight to the point. This is Genesis 27 and 37. And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, Behold, I have made him thy Lord, and all his brethren have I given unto him for servants, and with corn and wine have I sustained him. And what shall I do unto thee, my son? And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. But like we read in the book of Hebrews chapter 12, and though he sought it carefully with tears, his heart found no place of repentance. All right? Same thing with now. When you bring up slavery, oh, that was a long time ago, man. But yet you have 1967 when they had racism, all right, still against the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right? There was a post, you know, that was posted a while back, all right, and it had a billboard that said no niggers, all right, no Mexicans, and no Puerto Ricans. Why? Why is that? Because of the perpetual hatred towards his brother. And that brings me to the book of Obadiah. So like that's really what I wanted to get. Book of Obadiah. All right, see if I can get to it. You know, if I don't get to finish today, you know, next week I'll just go into continuing on Revelations 13, you know. So this is the book of Obadiah, chapter, it's only one chapter, but verse 10. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. You see? So that hasn't happened yet, because you had the Herodians still ruling in the time of Yahushua, and you had Agrippa. Agrippa was an Edomite. You know? You had the Romans were Edomites, and then the Spanish were Edomites, the conquistadors mostly were Edomites, all right? You had the English and the French, they were Edomites, you know? And then, of course, the Americans are Edomites because they came from the English, all right? And so on and so forth. So it says, in the day that thou stoodest on the other side, in the day that the strangers carried away captive his forces, and foreigners entered into his gates and cast lots upon Jerusalem, even thou was one of them. All right, when you read the book of Judges, you come to find out that Esau, Edom always teamed up with whoever was coming up against us, the Israelites. All right, so going back to Genesis 27 and verse 39, and Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and the dew of heaven from above. So Esau Edom was going to have the rulership over the earth. You see? And thy sword, and by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt thou serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, all right, when he has rulership over Jacob, it says that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. So he wasn't going to be under Jacob, but Jacob was going to be under him. All right. And Esau hated Jacob because of this blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of the mourning for my father are at hand, and I will slay my brother Jacob. All right. So he always had that perpetual hatred for Jacob, you know. So back in Obadiah, verse 12, but thou shouldest not have looked on the other day of thy brother, and the day that he became a stranger, neither shouldest thou have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction, neither shouldest thou have spoken proudly in the day of distress. Thou shouldest not have entered into the gate of my people in the day of their calamity, yea, thou shouldest not have looked in their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor have laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity. You see, so Esau Edom has always teamed up with somebody else to take down Jacob. You know, it says, neither shouldest thou have stood in the cross way to cut off those of his that did escape. Neither shouldest thou have delivered up those of his that did remain in the day of distress. For the day of Yahweh is near upon all the heathen. All right? So the day of Yahweh is near upon all the heathen. You see? So that means that Israel is not going to suffer like the heathen are going to suffer. You know? The heathen are going to suffer, man. Payback. You know? It says, as thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head. All right, so slavery, that thing that happened with slavery is still in effect, man. The Most High still has to pay back for that, you know? So jumping back to Revelations 13 and verse 9, Slakia. Revelations 13 and verse 9 says, if any man have an ear, let him hear. And this is the same thing that I read in the book of Obadiah. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. You see, so I'm gonna end it right there. So Esau Edom is gonna be going into captivity according to the scriptures. You know? And after a certain period of time, we're gonna completely cut off Esau Edom. All right? So with that, I wanna give all honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakakwadash. Give double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us all this truth to will. Shalom Akim. All right? And stay up. Shalom.